Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we are joined once again by the one and only Stephen Kendal. And first of all, thank you for joining us again.
Josh, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you guys over the last 3.5 years. I was checking earlier on, and thanks for having me back on your show, Josh.
Absolutely. It's been 3.5 years since our first interview, and a lot has happened, and it seems like a lot happens every week now. The monetary system is in interesting shape, and people always tell me I've been talking about the crash forever as if that somehow debunks basic economics. There's no putting dates on things, but it goes without saying that economic turmoil continues to worsen as time goes by. But you've made the point quite a lot lately on Twitter and elsewhere that we are already in a sort of ghost crash worldwide. I see your screen behind you says hashtag ghost crash. Interesting graphic, by the way. Can you go into that for us and explain that to our audience?
Sure, yeah. If people go back to 2008 and actually understand what happened in 2008 with the financial crisis, there was a massive big bailout of the banks. You're talking trillions of dollars that was actually pumped back into the banks to effectively give them liquidity to carry on. Now, since 2008, the global debt has exploded. Trillions, we're talking absolute trillions that are pumped back into the system to actually keep the system alive. Now, when people see the stock market and see the stock market going up, they automatically assume, because they've been wired and they've been educated by the mainstream media, that the stock market is the economy. Well, that's a fundamental mistake. That is a massive mistake to make. The economy and the stock markets are two completely different things. And the best way to explain it is the economy has stimulus that is generated through central banks and government spending. So you've got central banks and governments that are pumping trillions into the economy to keep the economy going. Now, the stock market is effectively a combination of forward thinking projections, easy money, cheap money, debt that is effectively being pumped into the stock market. So when people see the stock market going up and they say, oh, the stock market is going up, therefore the economy must be strong, where's this money coming from? And when people then suddenly start realizing that it's the debt, it's the free, cheap money that is being pumped into the market to actually prop the market up, which is forcing the stock market up. And to give people a very, very uneasy way to understand this is if you was earning $100 on a day's wage, but you had to buy or you had to pay for a taxi for $400 to actually get you to work to earn that $100, well, you could actually say that you're minus $300 before the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Now, what actually is happening with the economy? For every dollar of growth in the economy, $4 of debt has to be now pumped into it. So when you see the stock market and the stock market is going up and people think, oh, therefore the value must be increasing, it's the debt that's causing it to go up. Nothing to do with value. And you only have to look at the stock market, the indices, and the way that the stock market is set up, that there's really only a handful of companies that are actually propping the market up. The likes of Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, these technology companies, that the way the indices is set up is actually what is driving the market up. And most stocks are down. So when people see the stock market going up and say, oh, well, therefore the economy must be good and going up, well, you only have to look outside. And the reality is, what we're actually witnessing is the economy is slowing down. the stock market is going up because of the debt. And the other side of the coin, the other side of the trade is Bitcoin. And then in 2008, Bitcoin wasn't around. In 2009, with the Genesis block, when Bitcoin was created, well, it was created, and for the first 4 years up to 2000, say up to 2013, 2014, there wasn't really a great deal happening. And then in 2015, suddenly there was an explosion in Bitcoin. And what is actually happening in real terms is that we're actually witnessing a ghost crash of the market. The markets are still going up, but the markets are going up because of the reverse trade on Bitcoin. So when people start seeing the market and say, well, the economy must be strong because the market's going up, ask yourself a very simple question: what's happening with the debt? And with the US national debt, 21 trillion. It'll be 30 trillion before anybody will say, well, how's it got to 30 trillion? It was 10 trillion. It was 10 trillion in 2008.
At this point, it's just theatrics. I mean, when we see it at 21, 22, 40, 50, I mean, at that point, it's like, what's the difference? It's an absurd level of debt. And, we've talked a lot about share buybacks and the share buyback economy, the Fed's $0 trading desk and stuff like that. But I hear a lot of people talk about going back to 2008, people claimed on Obama's side, Obama saved the U.S. economy. People claim on the Trump side, Trump's saving the U.S. economy. When you actually look at the metrics, it's like, well, it's just going up. The stock market's going up. The economy was improving from 2008. Obviously, that's going to happen from the depths of a recession. And then people think it'll just never happen again and that this thing could be propped up forever. And it's being propped up, as you so aptly mention, by vast amounts of debt. It's essentially just flowing in debt sewage, as our economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen, brings up a lot. It's just like, at this point, it's just like an apple that looks red and shiny on the top, but it's floating in a bunch of sewage, and people cannot see what's underneath that and how incredibly dangerous that is. But while I disagree with the argument a lot of people make, the argument I hear all too often is that if the system has been rigged as long as it has, with recessions pushed off and manipulated markets propped up into prosperity, can't the monetary system be propped up indefinitely, as in permanently rigged with no possibility of collapse? Because I get this comment a lot. What do you think?
Well, if you remember 3.5 years ago, Josh, when we first spoke, we talked about blockchain derivatives. Now, derivatives, going back to 2016 when we had our chat, derivatives is a forward futures bet of something that's going to happen in the future. And what actually is happening in real terms is that the derivatives, the financial bets, the future events are actually what is causing the manipulated, fraudulent, corrupt valuations that we're actually witnessing. And what actually is going to happen, and there's evidence already that this is already starting to happen, is you've got a choice between either a corrupt, fraudulent system, as we've all known up until blockchain technology, or blockchain technology. Now, what actually is starting to happen is people are waking up to, we either carry on with a manipulated stock market or manipulated financial system, which is actually only going to get worse, or we switch to a more decentralized, more open source system where effectively everything becomes accountable and checked for the first time. And I think what actually is happening with Bitcoin is the canary down the mine for the failed financial system. Mm-hmm. And what actually is happening in real terms with, at the moment, Bitcoin's worth around 200 billion. You know, if you compare it with 1.5 quadrillion, 1,500 trillion of notional financial derivatives, which is nothing more than a 50-50, either it is or it isn't going to happen in the future, then there's going to be a migration. And that migration is going to come out of the old system, the fraudulent, manipulated system, into the blockchain system. And it might take a decade, but it's certainly for sure happening. So at the moment, you know, you might have a global asset value, 275 trillion. You've got 1.5 quadrillion of garbage financial derivatives that are propping the market up and propping the system up. As that 275 trillion of valuation migrates towards a blockchain system, then in theory, what actually is going to happen, the derivatives are going to come out for what they are and they're worthless. You know, you can't have two systems. You can't have a centralized system that people can do what they want with, and a decentralized system, a blockchain system that people become, you know, they'll become trusted to it. Well, you'll have two systems fighting each other, and I think this is starting to happen, and really you could say that in 2015, December of 2015 was when everything snapped, and gold 1,045, silver 1,358. You know, at that point in December, they started to reverse, and now they're all starting to go back up slowly. And the reason why they're not going up as fast as Bitcoin is that you've got these derivatives, these futures, that are pushing the prices down and keeping the prices low, depressed. And really, it's these financial derivatives that, you know, they can print as many dollars as they want. They can print dollars into infinity and use that printed money to push the prices down. But there'll come a point in the future where people will say, well, we don't trust that system anymore. And then all of a sudden, all these derivatives that are pushing these asset prices down, they're going to go up like a spring. And I think I mentioned a while ago, if you take all the derivatives off, if there was a magic switch and you switched off all the derivatives overnight, silver alone, you're talking $700 an ounce, because there's 300 to 1, and gold $56,000. You know, these aren't numbers that have been plucked out of thin air. These are numbers because of the amount of garbage that is actually pushing on the prices, pushing on the asset prices. So I think this crash, this financial crisis that we are in right now, isn't being spoke about and isn't being talked about on the mainstream media, because it's not on their agenda to actually start saying, oh, we're in a crash. And that's why if you listen to the mainstream media, every time they talk about Bitcoin, oh, it's going to go down. Well, the reality is Bitcoin's going up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you consider the idea of these major banks that are all, by the way, technically insolvent according to their own balance sheets, when those banks go down, when all the people, all the entities involved in manipulating the price of gold and silver, for example, go down, you can only imagine where gold and silver will go from there. And we've been talking about the gold-silver ratio a lot here at WAM. We will go into a few of the solutions, gold, silver, crypto, etc. In a moment. But first, I wanted to ask you a little bit about interest rates, because we've seen the Australian interest rates get lowered. We have been hearing a lot of talk about the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates. We've seen it in Sweden. We've seen it in Japan. And there's a lot of concern about this for obvious reasons, because, well, interest rates are dramatically low in a place like the United States. And if they go down, I mean, it's kind of hard to keep them above negative. So what do you think? Do you think they're heading in that direction? And what would that entail?
Well, in real terms, Josh, I actually believe we're in negative interest rates already. You know, we might not we might not be trading, I think at the moment is at 0.75, but we might not be trading at negative interest rates. Certainly, for sure, the amount of money that's been pumped into the markets and the economy actually would determine that we're actually in negative interest rates already. And really, to be quite honest, the amount of debt now, the global debt, to actually take the interest rate back up to a nominal, 5%, it just couldn't happen. It really cannot happen. And you're talking trillions that are going to have to be found. Interest payments are going to have to be found once interest rates start normalizing, and the money's just not there. And really, if you look at what's happened over the last, say, 45 years since the early 1970s, it really started. The problems with the financial system started back in the 70s, and really all we're seeing now is the slow end game. I think negative interest rates are already here. And they might fudge the figures and say, oh, we've got 0.75. But, you've got to remember, a decade ago, they were over 5%. And if the economy is so strong as they are saying on the mainstream media, why have we nominalized the interest rates? And they're still talking about possibly returning back to near zero. So as far as what people hear on the mainstream media regarding the Federal Reserve and central banks, the Bank of England, the ECB, and what they are saying they are going to do with the interest rates, I would look on the street. That's where the real indicators are, and there's a serious problem.
Yeah, everywhere I go lately, I've just seen vast homelessness and poverty. I was just in Europe. Everywhere I went in Europe, homeless everywhere. Germany, France, Spain, all over the place. Just countless homeless people laying on the sidewalks everywhere you go, which obviously has been a problem for a long time, but it's clearly getting worse. Saw the same in New York City, see the same in California, all over the place. Las Vegas, where I am right now. Everywhere I go, Canada as well, there's just vast amounts, more homeless people than I can ever remember seeing, just laying around on the streets everywhere. And it's a really sad story because, obviously all too often people look for the wrong solutions, which end up actually causing the problem in the first place. More centralization, more manipulation. Everywhere you look, everything is so fake. Everything is so artificially propped up. And people wonder why we have all these problems. Well, most people don't understand money. Most people don't understand the monetary system or the stock market. As a matter of fact, the so-called professionals on mainstream media themselves mix up the stock market and the economy. This is an obvious problem that people need to understand money. But I mean, all too often people claim that this kind of conversation is doom and gloom, or the sky is falling. Hopefully, I think that this is more of a hopeful situation than anything. Hopeful that we leave this old guard system of debt and dependency and enter into a new age of decentralized money. So what are your thoughts on the recent rally in the price of gold, as well as the extremely volatile crypto market, and where do you think they will go next? Because it's really starting to heat up.
Okay, well, if we look at gold and silver first, the ratio between gold and silver at the moment is about 90 to 1. Well, that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy, because at the back end of 1800s, gold and silver was fixed by law at 15 to 1. Now, the actual gold to silver ratio on the planet is around 9 to 1. So what you've actually got is you've got, by law, that has never been changed over a century, that gold and silver is a 15 to 1 on the monetary system. Well, you've got 90 to 1 on the paper system. Now, the paper system, for the ones who aren't familiar with it, central banks can print as much dollars and fiat as they want to actually keep a price suppressed. So at the moment, we're actually seeing both gold and silver coming back up. Now, the only reason why it's not shot up like Bitcoin is purely because of the manipulation. Now, Bitcoin, I will stand by what I've said since December of 2015. Bitcoin's in a bull market. Now, we've obviously experienced and we've witnessed it shoot up to $20. We saw it then pull back down to $5. It's then went back up to $15 or $14. It's now down to around $10, $10,000. What we're actually witnessing is a bull market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are watching the beginning of something really incredible. A lot of people note that we are seeing the beginning of it. It's bullish. Bull market subjectively kind of starts when we hit those all-time highs that we hit before and start moving up from there. But I mean, if you're a trader, this volatility is making you a lot of money right now. I mean, just in the last couple of days, from 13,800 down to 10,400 up to 12,400 down to 9,200. It's ridiculous, and I love every second of it because I know what it means. It means that there is a change of the guard. I think it's important, though, to also note, because we do have, it's 50-50. Our viewers are gold and silver or crypto. As many are both, but there is an issue, delivering this dialogue to people who have been in the gold and silver space for a long time and don't quite understand cryptocurrency, the notion of it not being controlled by any specific entity, though obviously markets are manipulated regardless of what we're talking about through price action. But could you go a little bit into like the difference between something like a decentralized cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and then these centrally planned cashless societies that are being plotted out throughout the world, like in China?
Well, yeah, just going very quickly, Josh, back to the gold and silver. I fully understand that there's a lot of listeners that are gold bugs or silver bugs, and they like to hold the assets, and they actually like to feel the assets and hold it in the hand. And I get that, 100% get that. Anybody who's into gold and silver, more often than not, actually disregard the fiat paper system that is suppressing it and say, if you own it, you've got to have it in your hand. So I get the gold and silver. You know, I'm a big fan of gold and silver, but only physical gold and silver as opposed to paper gold and silver. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin really is it's the maths. It's a mathematical computation that is actually what gives it its value. So to understand Bitcoin, knowing that there's only 21 million coins that will ever be mined, you have to understand the mathematics behind it. And it's the mathematics that is actually the reverse of what is happening on the financial system. So the financial system, as we know it up until 2008, is a centralized, manipulated system where people really, through fraud, can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. Whereas Bitcoin, because of the pure mathematics behind it, that is what gives Bitcoin its value. So I try and encourage people, the ones who don't understand Bitcoin and are very skeptical about Bitcoin, to try and understand the mathematics behind it. And it's the maths that is actually giving Bitcoin its value. Now, regarding any other countries outside of the sort of like the Western side, again, the mainstream media, these stories that are coming out from, China bans Bitcoin, Japan bans Bitcoin, Asia bans Bitcoin. Where are these stories coming from? Where are they actually being generated from? And really, you have to kind of do your own due diligence. Are they being banned, mm-hmm. or is it the media that has, they have a different agenda and they would like to say that it's being banned.
Well,
So,
in the
so
case of a place like India, I mean, I remember in 2017, one of the ministers said we are planning to ban Bitcoin, and it caused a huge dip in the price, and then suddenly they're like, no, we're not, and it turned out they were just buying up a bunch of Bitcoin low, and they were manipulating the markets. China, on the other hand, yeah, I mean, they got a different kind of cashless society. This one that's just rooted through the government and banks through legal tender laws, attempting to enforce social credit laws and credit systems and everything. And I find that Orwellian. I find cryptocurrency to be the exact opposite. It's like when people blame all digital currency for the faults of the centralized digital currencies that governments control, I find that quite interesting. I kind of equate it to blaming all food because you went to a restaurant and got food poisoning. No, you should probably blame that restaurant, not the food in general, because obviously you need that to sustain yourself. So I think it's really important to understand, like, when people say it's fiat, fiat doesn't mean that it's not physical. Fiat is government controlled, legal tender, based on faith, and the value is, they just print vast amounts. There's no end to printing, whereas Bitcoin, there is an end to printing in the year 2150, and it's 21 million bitcoins ever. That's scarcity. There's application use. With the case of gold, gold plays into application use by being physical, but it's not the reason it's completely valuable. Bitcoin doesn't need to be physical to be valuable. There's a use case for Bitcoin, a really large use case, and then of course demand. But anyway, I mean, I think that it's important that over the years we start to try and educate people as much as possible on the differences, because there are a lot of people out there that go, I'm not touching that stuff. It's digital fiat. I don't want it. And it's kind of, it concerns me because people aren't willing to educate themselves on this subject.
that's right. I mean, I always say to them, and I've been doing this now for about 4 years, and I always say to people, I don't try and force it down them. What I try and do is say to people, educate yourself, understand, what cryptocurrencies are, and blockchain, and distributed ledger technology. Understand what it is, before you make the decision that you disagree with what actually is going on, because once people start understanding the technology and understanding the difference between a centralized entity that is controlled by a handful of people and a decentralized entity that is effectively distributed, well, once you understand the basics behind it, you'll then understand that if it was applied to, industries, finance is obviously the first one that everybody is familiar with fintech. But
Mhm.
you know, what's going to happen when blockchains apply to media? What's going to happen in the next decade when mainstream media is pushed through a blockchain?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What do you think, Stephen, about this Libra coin pushed by things like Facebook? I find it interesting. You got Steemit behind you on that sign. I just find it funny because the Libra coin image or logo is essentially the Steemit logo on its side. What do you think about that?
Well, of course, the number of people that have emailed me regarding the Libra logo being so eerily similar to Steam is phenomenal. So yes, that is great, but that's where the similarities completely end.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, Libra isn't a decentralized cryptocurrency. It isn't at all. It's a centralized digital asset that is controlled by a central regulatory body. Now, when you look at the makeup of Libra and what actually they are proposing, Libra is no different than taking a basket of stocks and basket of currencies and a basket of banks and putting them in and saying, well, that gives a fair representation of the market. Not really, because what actually is happening is they are handpicking the ones that are going in the basket. And then once they're in the basket, there then is a central regulatory body that actually sits over it and says, hey, we're going to say what's going to go on. Well, blockchain might come into it, but it's a centralized system. So I'm, when it was announced, the only thing that I said when it was announced was this is actually going to give cryptocurrency a huge exposure, because the first thing people are going to say is, oh, it's on Facebook, 2.4 billion people. What's Libra? Oh, it's a cryptocurrency. I've heard of this. Is it real? Well, of course, people are wired that if they see something on a media that they trust, they will believe it. So, of course, on that Wednesday when it was announced that Facebook had released this paper for Libra, I was getting phone calls from all my family, all my friends, who basically was ringing me up and saying, hey, you've been talking about cryptocurrency for the last 4 years. It must be true because it's on Facebook. Facebook are going to have one. So of course, you can understand the joy from my side was I actually said to people, well, it might say it's a cryptocurrency, but really what it's giving the cryptocurrency world is exposure. And of course, what did we see in the price of Bitcoin? Bitcoin price shot up. So,
yeah.
all these things are all starting to now come out. It was never going to happen overnight. 2016 was probably the banner year for blockchain technology. It's been 3 years, and we're now just starting to see evidence of mass adoption and mainstream adoption. So it could take another 3 to 5 years yet.
Yeah, isn't it funny what it takes to convince people these days? But I mean, yeah, absolutely. It seems like a desperation move, if anything, from multiple perspectives. Their stocks are not looking good, so they're desperately trying to prop themselves up. And on the other hand, they're trying to pretend like they're a part of the innovation of the inevitable crypto space that will be taking over in the near future. And it's funny because just a couple of years ago, they were banning ads for ICOs for cryptocurrencies. Like, people couldn't make up their own minds on things and be responsible. And it's digital. That, if anyone's going to talk about digital fiat, I mean, if anything it's literally the crypto version, if you even call it cryptographic, the crypto version of the dollar, where Bitcoin is a crypto version of gold. I think that it's a good way of assessing it. But I don't think it'll do very well. I predict that the Farmville coins will do much better. But anyway, moving on, you just formed a partnership with Change Angel while in Malta at the AI and Blockchain Summit. Can you go into that a bit for our audience?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for letting me talk about Change Angel. I got to know the guys back in November of last year, the core members, and understood the guys, the individuals, as the characters, and who they are, and what their makeup is. And of course, when I then got to hear about this exchange that was coming out, I took quite an interest in the people that are actually behind it. So I want to give a big shout out to Dean and Jin, who are the co-founders of Change Angel, Dean and Jin. And of course, there's a small group of other people. So I just want to give a shout out to Ben and Dave, Laura. There's now a small group now that are actually forming quite a core foundation of the team of Change Angel. Now, what I love about Change Angel is the ethics that they are projecting and what they are attempting to do. And it's phenomenal, really, because the idea and the project and their product is very basic. It's just purely a swap exchange from, if you want to swap your Digibyte to Litecoin, or your Litecoin to Bitcoin, or your Dogecoin to Popcoin. If you want to do a swap, you go to Change Angel, you put your coins up, and they have a very powerful API that scans the market and actually scans the market for the best price. And at that point, if you accept it, it's literally wallet to wallet. They don't hold, Change Angel don't hold any assets at all. They don't hold it as a custodian. They literally take your cryptocurrency, put it to the market, swap it for the best, for the one that you want at the best price, and then deposit straight into your wallet. Now, they have a revenue, a very small revenue that they take for that exchange. From that revenue, they then give back to the communities that are actually using their exchange. So when you look at the likes of Digibyte, which is an open source community, it's always very difficult to fund marketing and promotional activities and initiatives, going out on the street, t-shirts, banners. So because it's hard to raise the money from the community, what Change Angel are now starting to do is give back to the communities in order for the communities to do marketing and promoting and going out and doing all these initiatives. So when I saw Change Angel for the first time actually operational, I sat down with the team, and because of who they are, I then said, well, I'll be really happy to partner up with you guys, because obviously I've been on Steam now for coming up to 3 years, and I've just recently changed my Steam logo and my Steam profile, and now I'm actually starting to market projects and shows and events, blockchain related project shows and events and companies, and I said to Change Angel that why don't we start a partnership? And it's been phenomenal. It absolutely has been phenomenal. And the projects that we are working on for the future, unbelievable. I mean, really are unbelievable. And I know how hard these guys have been working. So this is a huge, huge shout out to Change Angel. And if you've not been on the website, highly recommend it. changeangel.io. Go on the website. It's dead simple to use. It's really easy to use, and if you understand what they are attempting to do and giving back to the communities, it's phenomenal. So can't wish these guys enough. Big shout out to Change Angel, and big shout out to Dean and Jim, the co-founders.
They sound very interesting. Are they building up a good amount of volume on their site?
Yeah, when they actually started off, Change Angel, the core sort of community members of Change Angel, all got together in the Digibyte community, and that's how I got to know them, via the Digibyte community, and they realised, after about 9 months, that there was a problem generating funds to actually go out to promote Digibyte. So they thought of this concept of creating a swap exchange where the revenue will be broken down and portions given back. Well, that actually started them to think, well, there's not just Digibyte, there's Digibyte and Litecoin and Ethereum and Bitcoin and Dogecoin and Groschel coin. These at the moment, I think there's something like about 14 coins. I know for sure that they're going to be releasing some more in the next couple of weeks. And once people start seeing Change Angel, because of who they are and what they're attempting to do, phenomenal. So it's very rare, Josh, and I think you probably obviously you've got to know me over the last 3.5 years, but it's very rare that I come across a project that catches my eye. And when I saw Change Angel, it certainly fell into that category. And I wish these guys tremendous success, because the project and the product is it could actually it could actually revolutionize the cryptocurrency market because of the way that it's actually giving back. So keep an eye on these guys, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best innovations in this market come out of a bear market as well. I think that's important. I mean, Steemit came out of the 2016 bear market at that time. I mean, really great innovations are made there. And yeah, for over the last 3.5 years, I've known you to promote, I think, 3 projects that I know of: Steemit, Digibyte, and now Change Angels. And I think that it says a lot because you've been bang on so much of this for so many years now, and it's always really great to speak with you about these ideas. I think we are in a time where ideas are being more assessed than ever, and we're really starting to build on these ideas and come up with great innovations to solve all these problems that, you know, as I said earlier, people say doom and gloom. I think it's more optimistic than ever. But of course, we have to understand the doom and gloom before we can build solutions on it. But anyway, I really appreciate you speaking with us again. As we close this off, Stephen, can you let everyone know where they can find more of your work and support the work that you do?
Absolutely. I really concentrate on 3 channels. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, and obviously I'm on Steemit. So the way that I try and set my channels up is I use LinkedIn for my professional connections. And so obviously I'm on LinkedIn, Stephen Kendal on LinkedIn. I use Twitter obviously a lot because there's a great Twitter cryptocurrency community on Twitter. So it's Stephen P. Kendal on Twitter, and of course, you know, if you can go on to Steem, if you go on Steemit, you can see my my blog and all the work that I do, and I'm always on there. So Steemit, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
Excellent. Well, I suggest everyone go and check that out. Follow him. And it's been too long, Stephen. We got to do this more often. So I really appreciate you joining us again. And until next time, I guess we'll be talking soon.
Thanks very much, Josh, and all the very best to you guys, yeah?
Like what you see here at WHAM, don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we're so heavily demonetized and censored and shadow banned. It's getting really bad, folks. If everyone just gave $1 single a month to say Patreon or our Subscribestar, where we do subscriber-only content, we could really get out of this rut that we are currently in as YouTube tries to stifle independent media and prop up the mainstream media. This is really important. This is one of the most important times in independent media history for us to say it's now or never. Let's keep moving forward and let's be that change that we wish to see in the world. Of course, there's also our Bitcoin address below as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And of course, we got events coming up. So make sure to check us out at anarchovegas.com. Anarchovegas.com. Use promo code WAM, that's WHAM, for a 10% discount on your tickets. It's on July 19th, 20th, and 21st in, of course, Las Vegas, Nevada. That's anarchovegas.com. Make sure to check us out there and find us on websites like BitTube and Minds, and just try to support independent media, if not myself, any of the other big independent medias out there, to help us continuously bring our message to you free of charge so that we can really change the guard as we move forward into a dramatically polarized, crazy future. Let's try to make it as sustainable as possible. It comes down to you guys. You are the change you wish to see. You guys will help us get through these tough times. So anyway, check out all those links. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.